Hi everyone, welcome to the All Things XR podcast. In today's episode, I have Irena Cronin, CEO of Infinite Retina and author of several books. Hi Irena,
Hi, how are you?
thanks very much. Welcome to the All Things XR podcast. So Irena, you've been active in the AR and VR field for a very long time. Could you tell us more about your background and how did you end up in the XR field?
So I've been in the XR field since about 2015. Before that, I was actually a finance person. I have an MBA and I went to work on Wall Street. And so basically, I was doing that along with some graduate work on the side. Just one day in 2015, I realized that VR was happening and I got really curious. And I created a Facebook group just on VR and virtual reality. The name of the group was still available. That just shows you how early it was. And I was able to grab it. And I made a group of about, I don't know, 2,000 people really quickly. And I got involved. And pretty soon after that, I was pulled in very easily into the tech world and into, the XR world. So initially started with VR and then I became more entranced with AR. So now I'm more of an AR person. Yeah.
Yeah, just like me. So, Irina, what's your definition of spatial computing, and why do you think it's the next frontier in the technology world?
Sure. Spatial computing is any software or hardware that you would use to move around in a 3D world. And that would include a person or a robot moving around in that world. So it's a pretty wide definition, but it encapsulates the use of AI and computer vision. Now, the reason why it's important, I really believe, along with many others, that this is the new technology that's going to take over from regular computing. So the computing that we have right now with desktops and laptops and stuff like that, especially with the Apple Vision Pro and what's going to come in the future, I really think that that will be the next computing platform. So it's really important.
Awesome. Can you tell us more about your book named Spatial Computing and your collaboration with Kathy Hagel?
Sure, it's Spatial Computing and AI-Driven Business Revolution, and it's published by Wiley. And basically,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it with Kathy Hackle, and its audience is for enterprise and business people. And it's explaining actually what you just asked me. What is so special about spatial computing? And why should we pay attention to it? That's one question. And the other question is, now that you know that it's really important, what should you do about it as a business person? So that's basically how the book is organized.
Awesome. And why did you choose that audience as the audience of your book? Why do you think they matter? Why do you think the business world must know about the spatial computing and its importance?
Well, I do believe that consumers will catch on as soon as there's a more available device that is of excellent quality, like the Apple Vision Pro, if the price comes down, obviously, as it will in the next coming few years. So the organizations or people in the organizations who can afford spatial computing right now of that degree are in enterprise. And enterprise has been the platform by which spatial computing is actually being adopted more than in consumer. So there's a lot of business uses for spatial computing, so that's why it's quite popular, and businesses could afford something like 3,500. Now, I'm not discounting the use of the Quest, headset for businesses. It is being used, but I think the future is for MR and for Apple Vision Pro type devices.
Awesome. So Irina, you've been a long-time business partner with Robotics Global. Can you tell us more about your collaboration with Robert and how it has shaped your perspective on the technology world?
I believe I met Robert sometime in 2015 as well, and
Mhm.
I've known him and collaborated with him since around 2017. So we put together a business called Infinite Retina, which is the business I'm in right now. And he was chief strategy officer, so we were doing a lot of consulting work, and it was very successful. Along those lines, we wrote a book called The Infinite Retina that was published in 2020 by Pact. And that's been a well-received book. In fact, we're writing a second edition for it, which should be coming out next year. So
Mhm.
it's been a very, I talk to Robert all the time. I spoke to him yesterday, and we're now writing a newsletter called
Mhm.
Unaligned, and I've been doing that for the last 6 months with him. So it's been a very long and fruitful business relationship.
Awesome. Irina, you mentioned your company, Infinite Retina. Can you tell us more about your company? What are the challenges you're trying to tackle on your company and your activities there?
Sure. It's basically a consulting company, and also I do research.
Mhm.
I work in all the fields of XR, which AR, VR, and also AI, since it's a component of spatial computing. So basically the spatial computing world I deal with. So I help companies a lot with strategy because they don't exactly know what to make of this new, in their eyes, it's all very new, spatial computing.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a while for this to kind of dig in for businesses to truly understand what to do about it. And that's why I also wrote the book with Kathy Hackle to do the same thing, to explain why businesses should find spatial computing really relevant to to their businesses and their companies and their profitability and their future. So basically, my company does a lot of consulting with several big companies. I also do small companies and entrepreneurs, and I help them understand how to utilize spatial computing in their business. I've also written long research papers, and I write papers for people who have very specific questions, and I dig really deep into that for the businesses.
Mhm. Awesome. You also mentioned, Arena, about your newsletter with Robert. Can you tell us more about that? Who's the audience there, and what are the topics you try to dig into that?
Sure, the audience is very wide. We post a lot on X, and it's basically coming out every week. And we also send out the newsletter we currently have something like 2,300 people
Mhm.
that have joined to get the newsletter every month, and it's growing every month. So it's a very wide audience. It includes anyone and everyone that's interested in XR. It's not only business, it's any consumer, any newbie, anyone interested in tech. And what we actually write about is basically on a more fundamental level on what AI is all about. So all kinds of different topics in AI so that people can actually understand all the different areas that AI covers. And it's huge. It's not only generative AI, as people now are really crazy about. It's AI in a very wide open space that's been used since, the early 2000s, that kind of AI. So we educate people basically as to what the elements of AI are.
Awesome. Irina, you and I also collaborated on one of your recent books, the Immersive Metaverse Playbook for Business Leaders. And I had the pleasure to be the technical reviewer for that book.
Yes.
Can you tell us again what motivates you to go into the enterprise, and how the book has been received by the business leaders, and what were their feedback on the book?
Sure. As I said, business and entrepreneurs and in smaller businesses as well as larger businesses are the first leaders of capturing or trying to use new technology in many, many cases. So in this case, for spatial computing, even though, yes, some consumers have VR, and there's been a lot of talk about exactly how many are using it, but AR has been used by enterprise since around 2009. And many people don't know that it's been used in warehouses and in manufacturing. So the business world very well knows about AR, except now that there are new business cases that are happening, and it's the same thing. I want to educate, including Robert, want to educate people as to why spatial computing is relevant and what the use cases are and how to help them understand that.
Awesome. Can you tell us more about the use cases? What are the current use cases that the technology enables us to access via AR and VR, and especially with today's advances in AI?
Sure. So in manufacturing, there's digital doubles, basically, where there's in order for someone on the other side of the world to understand what's going on with a particular piece of machinery, they double the machinery in terms of visually in a very, very good way, so that anything that happens on this side of the world happens on the other side of the world. So they could talk about fixing a machine, they could talk about creating the machine, whatever. And there's a lot of automotive companies that use this, as you can imagine, in building the machines and actually prototyping to begin with. So that's one use case. Retail is a huge user of AR. So, and there will be a lot more use cases for retail in the future as AR becomes more affordable for consumers. But the business people in those retail companies are already using AR and testing it, and they've been doing this for a number of years. Let's say, I'll tell you, Walmart and Amazon since 2018 have been collecting 3D representations of their products. So now it numbers into the hundreds of thousands of products together that they have that they've gotten ready to use for AR. So that's another case. Also in finance, they're using AR as a kind of like teacher and to help people understand different kinds of finance issues, and also to train people in finance and how to do their financial jobs. Now, that is not the only area where there's training. Training is across the board. There's training for retail, there's training for manufacturing, there's training in finance, there's training in automotive and autonomous vehicle type things. So it's quite a wide range of different kinds of industries that are using spatial computing right now.
Awesome. So, Irina, with today's advances on AI, and AI is the main topic everywhere, what do you think about the role of AI in the future of spatial computing?
AI is integral to spatial computing. Without AI, you wouldn't even have VR to begin with,
Yeah.
because basically what the computer vision does and with the sensor technology and cameras, it helps for the device to understand the environment around it so that it could spatially place things in the case of AR, not pass-through AR, but regular AR, where it could place things in front of you and it remains present. And with VR, so that it basically follows you around. And, so without AI, that's one aspect of AI, it's computer vision. Another aspect of AI is personalization. So once you have all that data about your environment, you could use that data to do personalization, and you could have a personal automated, not automated, but avatar or another kind of helper help you understand anything that you want. It could ask questions of you, you could ask questions of it, and it could start to build, let's say, a dossier on what you like and what you prefer. So AI is used for that as well. There's a third really great use for AI, and it's for experiences, and that includes the use of generative AI. With generative AI, you could build experiences very much on the fly. Now it's pretty much nascent, it's beginning. You can only make 10-second
Exactly.
videos, but it's going to get much, much better. And you could, in the future, build experiences, and anyone would be able to do that. And you'd be able to view the 3D experiences in your headset, which is really awesome. So those are the three main uses of AI for spatial computing.
Awesome. So, Irina, what trends do you foresee for spatial computing in the next 5 years or a decade from now?
Okay, so basically, I see glasses as being the next iteration. Yes, we have the
Mhm.
Apple Vision Pro. I don't think they'll stop doing the Apple Vision Pro. I think they'll keep iterating on it to have,
Exactly.
maybe every other year. But there's tons of companies now actually, they've been working for several years on AR glasses. So Meta, Samsung, Sony, and of course Apple has been working on AR glasses. So I would say within the next 4 years, actually, we will have quite a few AR glasses on the market of different price points. And that'll be the beginning. Now, I think penetration of that is probably going to take a couple of years, so maybe 6 or 7 years from now. A lot of people will be wearing AR glasses and using them, instead of using other things. Now, I can tell you that that the use of a computer on its own is not going to stop, especially for people who program and people who do a lot of stuff with visionary entertainment kinds of things. Now, they need to have large screens to be able to do their work. They can't do the stuff in glasses. They can't do the stuff in the Apple Vision Pro. So there's still going to be a spot for larger pro computers, I believe, in the future, with the glasses and also MR devices, because you could do other things with MR devices as more immersive kinds of entertainment than you would do with glasses. So there's spots for all three types of technology within the next 5 to 10 years.
Awesome. So, who do you think will be the winner of this race? Apple, Meta, or some indie companies like, for example, Frame?
Oh, okay. Well, I believe that there's going to be different price points for AR glasses, let's say, right? So you can imagine that Apple's AR glasses are going to be the most expensive. So people
Hmm.
who buy them want to buy Apple, they want to spend the money, and they'll have their Apple glasses, and it might be that that's the best quality, out there, and it's worth the money that you would spend. Meta, I would presume, would be quite a bit less. So people, if they want to have glasses, will buy Meta. And yes, there will be smaller companies that'll come in, but it'll be harder for them to compete with all the other larger companies that are able to do economies of scale for their manufacturing and have all of the connections with manufacturers already. So I don't know about Frame, and I'm not really sure about the other kinds of competitors. Well, the smaller ones will actually be able to get an elbow in. Yeah.
Hmm. Awesome. So, about the form factor, what do you think uh, will be the final form factor of AR and VR glasses?
Oh, well, everyone wants it to be like Ray-Ban, right?
Yeah,
So that's where it's actually heading. Now, this is why it's taking so many years for it to get there, because there's a lot of tech issues with miniaturization, right?
exactly.
With battery power, with GPUs, with where you're getting how you're passing the information through on the headset and then off the headset. And is there going to be a battery pack? And people don't like battery packs. So how is that going to work? So there's a whole bunch of issues that have to be pinned down before you get to those small frame factor. But I really think that within 4 years, like I said, we are going to start getting them. And it'll be very interesting to see how they differentiate when they first come out, because these companies are very secretive, obviously, about what these devices look like and what their features are. So
Mhm,
most everybody who's even in the industry does not know what the competitor is really building. So that
mhm,
will be really interesting.
mhm. So, Irina, how do you see the relationship between humans and machines evolving with the rise of spatial computing?
I think just like with generative AI, that spatial computing is a helper to for
Hmm.
human beings. It certainly can't replace them, because all of the stuff that is done in the headset and also with the glasses is catering towards the human being, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, Generative AI, some people might question that, but especially with spatial computing, it is made with the human being in the center. So, and what does it do? it helps speed up a lot of, let's say, mundane tasks that you would have to do. It creates entertainment, like I said, with generative AI that you wouldn't be able to do in the past. You'll be able to take this computer on the planes, like people have been doing it with Apple Vision Pro to do their work. But again, it's too heavy right now and it's too expensive. In the future, it's going to come down. With glasses, the personalization to have a helper in your ear asking you and you telling it what you want with AI is going to be really, really helpful. So I think that spatial computing is here for us, just like computing on the desktop and on laptops is for us.
Yeah, I agree. So, Arena, we talked about AI and that it's hype for now. What do you think about the current trend of AI? Do you think of it as a bubble or it's here to stay?
Oh, I definitely believe that, let's say specifically with generative AI, AI is definitely here to stay. But the question has
Hmm.
to do with generative AI. I definitely don't think it's a bubble.
Hmm.
I mean, pretty much immersed in this business every single day. So I see a lot more things than a lot of people, even in the business, in those that are in the business, because they don't have enough time to follow exactly what's happening all the time. And I'm always seeing trends. Um, there's a trend now with agents, with AI
Yeah.
agents. Robert and I wrote a paper about that 8 months ago before
Hmm.
anything really started. There was maybe one agent and it was breaking all the time. And we said, this is going to happen, right? So,
Yeah.
and there's no way that it's a bubble because I could see how generative AI apps are what they're doing, what they're trying to do in terms of for businesses, mostly for businesses right now, to be perfectly honest. Again, enterprise is the stepping stone by which to get money because
Hmm.
entrepreneurs need to the small companies need to get revenue, and where are they going to get that revenue first? It's going to be from
Exactly.
enterprises. So the apps are catering towards enterprise use. And I just see that as continuing in the future and getting larger and larger.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally agree. So, Marina, on the topic of AI and generative AI, there are two groups mainly discussing the potential and risks of AI. One group is, I believe we can call EX, and the other group talks more about the risks and dangers of AI. Who do you think is right, and what's your opinion about this subject?
I tend not to be an extremist, so I don't go,
Hmm.
I'm not in either court, let's say, full on. I am cautious, but I'm an optimist.
Hmm.
So I really believe in the potentialities of AI being a positive force for humanity, and that human beings will be able to figure out what to do if there's some kind of case where it looks like it's going to run away, what they call runaway cases, where
Hmm.
AI might be taking over and it doesn't do what you want it to do, it does what it wants to do. Um, I I really think that that is not going to happen in general. And I think we'll be able to figure out how to put on those guardrails to stop it from happening. So I'd say I'm a moderate, and I'm moderate in the middle about that.
Hmm. Awesome, great. So, Ariana, what innovations in technology right now excite you the most?
Hmm. Well, I have to say again, I'm incredibly excited about the Apple Vision Pro. I am
Uh
a
huh.
person that constantly talks about it. And I also know quite a bit about, what's going to happen. I can't always tell people outside of the small group of people that have told me things about what's going to happen, but I could tell you that there is going to be a new Apple Vision Pro the cheaper version coming out, along with
Uh-huh.
the more expensive Pro version coming after that. So,
Mm.
there were a couple of rumors earlier on, a couple of months ago, that said no, they're dropping it. They're
Oh,
dropping.
yeah.
They're not going to do it. There's not enough sales. Well, let me tell you that the sales of the Apple Vision Pro was always supposed to be somewhere around 400 to 500,000. That's not a new thing. And it was made for developers. And the people who don't
Yeah.
understand that are misunderstanding why Apple actually put this product out without all of the software that is needed. There still needs software to be built for it without a lot of apps. There are apps, but certainly everybody's crying for more apps. And they need the developers to develop new things for it. So this is what I'm most excited about. I can't wait to get the cheaper version because then I know that consumers will jump in without a doubt. And I am very excited about the use cases for generative AI for everyone. First,
Mhm.
for enterprise, that I see happening in the narrow uses for, like there have been a lot of apps that have been recently built for attorneys
Uh-huh.
for, and helping them because of all the paperwork that they have. There's been a lot of stuff happening in healthcare in trying to help the paperwork there with LLMs and other kinds of AI. So it's going industry by industry, basically, and trying to capture each industry vertical. And I think that's going to be the successful way for generative AI to have business models and to be able to break through and continue on in the future. And then they're going to build even more consumer type things. So those are my
Mhm.
two things that I'm extremely excited about.
Awesome, awesome, great. So, Irina, big companies like Meta and Apple and OpenAI are working on AI and also spatial computing. What advice you have for startups for preventing to get disrupted by these big companies?
Oh, this is an interesting question. So I have an MBA, so I think in the business kind of way usually, about this question. Unfortunately, if the product that the smaller company is making has anything to do with a product that a larger company like Apple or Meta has been putting in billions of dollars and several years, they can't compete. So my advice is don't try to go into specific pieces of hardware. Go into software and go into apps where there's a lot of opportunity. And with apps, you could actually be bought out by one of these, larger companies. So that's a way out, which would be good for a lot of companies, and you make money that way. So I think anyone trying to make hardware that would compete is going to lose. So that's what I would say. Don't do it.
Great, great. I totally agree. So, Irina, as AI taking over and being able to do more of human jobs, what skills do you think will be essential for future professionals in the tech industry and also other industries?
Okay, well, I'm thinking specifically now of generative AI. So the
Hmm.
kind of skill that you would need to have is to know what you're looking for so that you could tell any generative AI app what to do. If you don't understand the scope of the work that you're actually trying to do, or the
Hmm.
task that you're trying to do, this generative AI app will not be able to help you and you'll be left behind. So it's a
Hmm.
more thinking in a strategic, generalized sense of tasks that the generative AI would do for you, and you have to kind of map that out, especially with agents. And I'm thinking really with
Uh-huh.
agents that are going to take over
Yeah,
for
yeah.
business uses. So if you can't think that way, you're not going to be successful in orchestrating what an agent can do. So that is a kind of mindset that you'd have to have. And I'm not saying that people wouldn't be able to learn it. It's just that they would have to have it to be able to be successful. The other thing is curiosity. You have to be curious about the technology. It can't be forced on you. So let's say a company says you have to use this. Um, I think that those that are more go-getter with technology and tech-first people are going to be the ones that will be more successful in using generative
Hmm.
AI. And those that are more risk-taking and less conservative. So that it's kind of a picture of a type of person that thinks in a very deep way, is able to strategize and know what the tasks are, and also is not afraid. You cannot be afraid of technology to be able to be successful of
Hmm.
it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. You better collaborate and augment yourself with it, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. Awesome. So, Irina, you've written several books in the technology space. What challenges you faced or writing books in this space, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I like to stay up late when I write, and I tend to write
Uh-huh.
in a kind of a long stream. So when I start writing, I could write for 4 hours, 5 hours straight. So
Awesome.
yeah, I can't just sit down and say every day I'm going to write at 8 a.m. I'm going to write a page or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So that's the only way, because I was writing several books at the same time, that I'm able to do it. And I also have to have time. Obviously, I'm doing consulting, but I'm able to put aside that time to devote to the book writing.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, I'm really immersed in the industry in terms of what's happening, so it's not that hard to get those thoughts onto paper.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, what advice you have for people who want to write in this space, whether it's books or newsletters and etc.?
I'd say get to know the people in the industry. Find a way
Mm-hmm.
to get to know them, whether it's together in person, whether it's at conferences or hackathons or whatever. Just go out and get to know people and be curious and find out what they're working on. I know what Robert does. He stalks X every minute of the day to
Hmm.
find out what
Yeah.
the updates are. So that's also a way of doing it. But you have to do it hand in hand with actually being curious about meeting people and finding out what's on the cusp
Hmm.
of what's happening. And I think if you can capture that tail, the tail of the lion or whatever, to be able to capture it, that is a way to be able to write a book. Otherwise, the stuff is moving so fast. I'd say sometimes I would write something one week and I'd have to update it the next week. So you have to be very capable in understanding that you have to follow up and you have to have that energy as well. So that's what
Hmm.
I suggest people: creativity, curiosity, and having energy. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. So, Irena, where can our listeners and those who are watching us on the YouTube find out more about you, your books, and your company, Infinite Retina?
Sure, you can get on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn and you can see all the
Uh
stuff that
huh.
I've done. I'm on X a lot, so I post a lot of things there.
Hmm.
And they could absolutely get in touch with me on X or LinkedIn. I prefer X. Yeah.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, awesome. So we'll surely put links on the description of this podcast. Well, Arena, it was great having you on the All Things XR podcast. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.